112th Regimental Combat Team. It was organized in 1921 as part of the Texas National Guard. The 112th was inducted into federal service on November 18, 1940. Prior to World War II, men and horses were attached to 8 troops that were located in Dallas. So this is like a home-based unit in Dallas, Texas, and they had 3 stables. And I just looked at this yesterday. It's kind of interesting. They had a stable at North Dallas near Bachman Lake. They had one north of Flagpole Hill in the White Rock area, and then one in the Urbandale area, which is down in the Pleasant Grove area. The regiment was sent overseas in July 1942 and served on the islands of New Caledonia, Australia, Woodlark, Goodnow, New Britain, New Guinea, Leyte, and Luzon, and then ended up at the end of the war on Honshu Island when the treaty was signed and the Japanese surrendered. So they have a very exciting history, and we have 2 wonderful gentlemen here that we're going to introduce and have an opportunity to hear their story, and it's really an interesting story in both cases. I'd like to welcome Alan Harper, our director, for his welcoming remarks to the audience here today. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you all attending our 19th Veterans Forum, and I especially want to thank Alan Clark for the effort that he puts in organizing these events, and he couldn't do it without Penny, and they do a great job. I also want to thank our veterans, because if it wasn't for our vets' willingness to come up and share their experiences with us, we wouldn't be able to hear some of the history and the kinds of things that we need to know about, that our veterans have stepped forward and served our country, and it's exciting to hear them tell their story, and that's what these Veterans Forums are all about, and we just appreciate their willingness to share, because sometimes it's not as comfortable to recall and share that information. But thank you all very much. Thank you all for being here, and let's get on with the program.
Those of you that can stand, looks like everybody here can, would you please rise? We will begin with the invocation. Mike Casino Sr. will lead our invocation. He's a former POW, World War II Europe, and a volunteer for us. Thank you, Mike, for being here. And it'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem. But invocation now, please.
Our heads for word of prayer. Lord, we come to you and thank you for the privilege of coming to hear these 2 gentlemen give their experiences in the combat zones. Lord, we thank you for this hospital. We thank you for Harper and his staff. We thank you for the doctors and nurses here that bless us with their help. And so we just are so thankful for this hospital. We thank you for the privilege of coming and presenting our cases. And these 2 gentlemen here, I'm sure, are going to give us an interesting information that they went through it in combat. So we thank you, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mildred Head, one of our most loyal volunteers here in the Medical Center. Mildred, welcome. If you all would face the flag, please. Gentlemen, would you 2 stand, please? James.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mildred. Our national anthem will be sung by Rachel Lindley, who is on our medical center staff here. Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Please be seated. I'd like to introduce our two panelists today. On your left is Clarence Kingsley. He was born in 1921. He grew up in East Dallas. He returned to Dallas after World War II. He retired from the rapid transit system, the DART system. I guess you're glad to see the station down here, Clarence, is a great station that we have to get everybody down here. He married Marguerite in 1946. 4 children. One of them is here, Donna Kingsley. Would you please stand? We'd like to welcome you, Donna. 5 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. He received 2 Bronze Star medals with V devices for his actions in World War II. James Chenault, on your right, was born in 1915. Grew up in Mississippi. He moved to Dallas in 1939 to help his father build a home. He worked as a surveyor after the war, a policeman, and a taxi driver. He retired with Dallas County in maintenance operations. His wife, Dorothy, wasn't able to be here. She's still working. He says somebody has to work with bread on the table, right? Take care of him. 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. So we're delighted to have you both here today. I'd like to start with James and ask you our first question, and that is, what was your motivation to have originally joined the 112th Regimental Combat Team of the Texas National Guard during the Depression?
Well, because I met my friends when I first come out here. They was in the National Guard, and we'd go out and ride horses, and I thought it was a lot of fun. That's when I joined. That's why I joined.
And you made a little bit of money, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit. But during the Depression, that was a lot.
Oh, yeah, it sure was.
Yeah, was it $19 or $21?
Something like that.
Something like that, okay. All right. Clarence, after your unit was nationalized on November 18th, 1940, where were you sent for your training?
Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas.
And then you took your horses there,
Yes.
as I recall. Then you went to the Louisiana Maneuvers, right?
Yes.
Where you did a lot of horseback riding there.
Oh, yes.
How many miles a day average did you ride?
I'd say it's average about 60 miles a day or something like that.
Yeah, so y'all were in good shape. You've been riding for years, right? And
Yes.
kind of grown up with horses, probably.
Yeah.
So y'all knew your business.
Yes.
Little did you know you wouldn't be using those horses very long in World War II, though.
Well, we didn't even know the war was going to start.
Yeah, you didn't know later on that you wouldn't have much use for them. James, when those horses got hot out there in those Louisiana maneuvers, what did they tend to do out there?
They wanted to lay down in the water.
Into the mic.
They lay down in the water. One time we stopped in the horses in the creek, and Colonel Hooper was hollering to the trooper over there, said, "What your horse is fixing to lay down. Watch him, trooper." And all the time he was hollering to him, his horse was laying down. And he got sand in them officers' boots, and never got them off of them.
So how long did it take you to get them up? Did they just eventually get up, or did you have to raise them up?
Well, he sat down and we pulled him, we tugged till they finally slipped off. I don't know, that sand got around his ankles. You know, them officers' boots not very big, the legs of them are. So, anyway.
Okay. Clarence, after these Louisiana maneuvers, the unit came back to Texas and went to Fort Clark near Brackettville,
Yes.
which is where the first Alamo with John Wayne, the movie was filmed, as a matter of fact. And you had a fun job there. What was that related to?
Well, we broke remounts and trained polo horses.
Now, who rode the polo horses?
The officers.
The officers.
Yes.
So they were having a real fun, huh?
Yeah.
But that was a pretty good assignment for you.
Yeah, we trained them to where they would follow the ball, and the horse would turn pretty quick. We had cart and diamonds on the behind feet, and the officers would go straight ahead when this horse would turn back.
Yeah.
So we dumped a lot of officers like that.
Yeah. Well, did the officers during that time have a lot of free time to ride polo horses? Y'all did all the work?
Yeah, they had to,
They had a lot of free time.
That's right.
I think that's changed in today's Army, Clarence. I think the officers are a little more busy.
Yeah, I think they are.
I don't think you do that anymore. They didn't do it when I was in. James, your unit left by troop ship from San Francisco and spent 21 days at sea.
Right.
How did you spend your time on that ship?
Well, we mostly, my group, mostly just up on top of decks, played the guitar and sang songs.
What kind of songs?
Oh, you wouldn't want to listen to them.
You wouldn't. They were a little bit perhaps R-rated. Is that
Right.
correct? Okay.
Right.
Well, I guess that's what young men tended to do, right? Going off to war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of them was pretty good songs. But
Oh, were they? Okay. Patriotic songs and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. Clarence, when you were on the ship, you worked in the bakery, of course, and an interesting situation developed with the chief steward on the ship. Tell us about what ended up happening with that chief steward who was responsible for getting the food out to you.
Yeah. Well, we wound up eating hard-boiled eggs and oxtail soup. And they had a lot of meat hanging in the freezers. And when we got to New Caledonia, well, this mess steward, he was black marketed.
He was saving the food for
He was
to
saving
sell
it,
on
yeah.
the black market? Yeah. Well, and so what happened to him?
Well, they carried him off. We don't know what happened, but I figure I know what happened if they had noted on the ship.
Yeah, we all probably tossed him overboard. Yeah. Well, the fact is what he was doing was he was hoarding the food and not feeding it to the troops so he could sell it on the black market when they got to New Caledonia. Now, this is Australia, obviously, and New Caledonia is his first island here. So they came from San Francisco and they worked their way up to the Philippines eventually. That's where they started, though, was New Caledonia.
Yes.
And so, now, why did you all sleep on the deck?
Well, we didn't have much escorts going over, and we spotted Japanese subs a couple of 3 times. So in case something happened, we'd be up on deck instead of underneath.
Be able to get out.
Yeah.
Did you all have lifeboats and so forth? And
Well,
life
they had
vests?
some on there, but I don't think it would take care of all of us.
All of you? Okay. Okay, you landed in Clarence. You landed in New Caledonia, and you picked up Australian horses. You obviously didn't take your own horses over. You
Yeah.
left your own horses back here in Texas, I guess. Where'd you leave your horses?
They lost some of them at sea.
Did you take some horses on the ship?
Yeah,
Okay.
not on our ship, but they was on the ship.
On other ships,
Yeah.
okay. But then you picked up horses in Australia,
Yeah.
but you decided not to use them over there. And what is the reason for that?
Well, you can't use a horse or any kind of animal in the jungles.
So you all found out real quick that it wouldn't
Yes,
work.
right. Yeah, we left them in New Caledonia when we left New Caledonia.
And then you all had heavy mud, as I recall, you're
Yes.
saying. And, how'd you work your way through them? I mean, it'd come up your waist, you said? That's how high the mud was as y'all were trying to get through it?
Some places, but most of it be about knee deep.
Knee deep? That's pretty deep mud, too.
That's right.
Okay. All right. This is a little bit of history of the unit. As the fighting nucleus at Airway, which we're going to talk about in New Britain, the task force that they became teamed up with the 148th Field Artillery Battalion and then became the Regimental Combat Team. The landing on Airway on December 15, 1943, was a diversionary operation in support of the 1st Marine Division's landing at Cape Gloucester 10 days later. 6 months of bitter jungle fighting, characterized by incessant enemy bombing, saw the Marines and cavalry joined up and in complete possession of the western half of New Britain. Now, New Britain is this island, let's see, right down, I think it's right here. This is New Britain right here. So this is New Guinea, where they eventually ended up, but this is New Britain. And Rabaul was a major Japanese stronghold and naval base and so forth that they used to control this whole area. So after they left New Caledonia and Australia, they went to this little island called Woodlark, which James has some pictures of himself on if you'd like to come up. Some relaxed pictures, you might say. And then the next place they went to was here at New Britain, and this is the Airway campaign, which we're going to talk about. Okay, James, I think now's a good time to tell the cow story.
Oh, you skipped number 7?
May have. Sorry.
That's the same one you just asked Kingsley.
Just a minute. Let's see here. Okay. Nope. I've already asked him number 7. Yeah, we're on number 9 now.
Okay.
Okay. All right, number 9. Now's the time for the cow story you both talked about with the mortar practice and so forth.
Well, we had a mortar practice. The mortar was on one hill, and we had the target over on another hill. Well, I was over there marking targets. Well, when they was shooting over there with mortars, well, one of the cows got in the way over there. One of Mr. Failard, the guy that, one of the Frenchmen that lived there, his cow got in the way, and he got shot by a mortar. I think the Army paid for that cow about 4 times. I don't know.
Had to pay reparations. Military always pays for reparations, right?
Right.
Clarence said that the cow provided the best steaks you'd ever had, even though you'd eaten Texas steaks, that this was the best steak you'd ever tasted from this cow. The unit completed jungle warfare training on New Caledonia, then they made this amphibious landing at Airway, New Britain. As they went on the beachhead, Clarence's troop took direct fire from the Japanese on the beachhead because they were on high ground on the beach that they landed on, but they eventually secured the beachhead. Okay, Clarence, tell us about the experience, question number 10. Tell us about the experience at the main line of resistance when you were in a foxhole and the Japanese penetrated your lines.
Well, another fella and I was on OPL, listening outpost, and we were dug in, and we didn't expect the Japs to hit us like that, but they come through our lines. They came by us, and you could hear them breathing. They were that close. And all you could do is just lay there in case one of them jumped in on you. You could maybe stick him with a knife or shoot him with a 45. And but they went on down and hit our main line of resistance, and that was we got fire from that too. So we had to stay down that foxhole until.
So you told me you had your 45 ready and your trench knife ready if they came into the foxhole.
Yeah, you could even hear them breathing.
Yeah, we're that close. That's pretty close enemy in a combat operation. And then after that attack, you told me the story about that they went into the caves.
Yes.
And then what did you all have to do to get them out of the caves?
We taken flamethrowers.
Flamethrowers to get them out of there.
Yeah.
But that pretty well cleaned them out.
Oh yes.
That wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. A flamethrower is one of the main weapons that you all used over there.
The flame goes through the cave, and if it goes by the Japanese, it roasts their lungs, and it kills them.
Well, that's part of what the job was, to kill people and break things up and beat them, right?
Right.
Okay, James, describe the nighttime assault on the Japanese when they tried to encircle your artillery positions.
Well, we was parked on the beach, and the moon was shining real clear, and the Japanese come around. They're trying to get behind us on knock out our artillery. Well, Captain Carter was a corps commander, and we wanted to shoot him, but Captain Carter said, "No, hold your fire, hold your fire." Well, we just kept on. They got right up close to us, and they started getting out of them rubber boats, and Captain Carter said, "Well, okay, let them have it." So I think they killed every one of them. Didn't one of them get away? And the problem with that then, after we got through, this armored car I was driving was sort of like a tank, only it had wheels. And I threw the empty hulls out on the back, and I cranked it up the next morning to leave, and then that fan sucked them empty hulls in there and tore the radiator all to pieces.
Well, we have the USO, of course, did a lot, and it does a lot always for all our wartime services. And, of course, Bob Hope is the most famous USO entertainer. But obviously, during World War II, other celebrities came out to visit you all. So, Clarence, why don't you tell us about the most famous celebrity you met out there and his coming out to your location? John Wayne.
Well, we were in the Airway, New Britain, and it was so hot up there that none of the other crew would come, just John Wayne by himself. And so he came and spent the night with us, and in my foxhole. And the next morning, we made a little assault across the lagoon, and he went with us.
And he had his own weapon, right?
Oh, yes, he
If
had
he'd
one.
been captured, he'd have been executed, right?
I guess he would.
But he stayed overnight with y'all out
Yes,
there in the
yeah.
combat zone,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And so, how do you describe how he acted to you all? I mean, was he a
Fine guy.
fine guy?
Yeah.
And let's see, there was one other little thing that you mentioned that he carried around with him.
Well,
Item of clothing,
well, some other clothes.
some feminine apparel.
Yes.
Now, he thought it was kind of cool to carry some feminine apparel around.
Trying to keep the morale up.
Kind of tempt these men, I guess, whatever. All right. Okay, Clarence, I understand that you had difficulty killing some of those enemy, even when they got shot, okay, because of something that they had been doing to themselves. So
Yeah.
describe that, because that's a not well-known factor
Well,
against the Japanese.
Most Japanese used opium. And when they get hopped up on opium, you could hit them in the long arm, leg, or something like that. You can't stop them. You know, they keep on coming. You had to hit them in a vital spot, and that's what the American soldiers were scared of, you know, that after you shoot them, they'd come and get you anyhow.
So you really had to hit them in a vital organ
Yes,
with the bullet,
yeah,
because
yeah.
if it was just a peripheral wound or on the limbs, they're going to keep coming at you.
If they fall and stay down there, you hit them right, but otherwise they'd come and get you.
Okay. Clarence had said that the native scouts were very valuable and could sense the Japanese patrols and alert the Americans. The Japanese cut the supply ships to our island at one time, and Clarence and his unit learned to like what? What did y'all learn to like out there when the supply ships were cut off? What did you eat for a week?
Coconuts.
Coconuts for a week.
Coconut juice, yeah.
Do you still like coconuts?
Well, I didn't like rice for about 15 years after I got home.
Yeah.
Every time we cut a Jap bag open, the rice would come out of it.
Yeah. You didn't like rice
That
for
turned me
15
against rice, yeah.
Yeah, but coconuts are okay today?
Well, yeah, they're pretty good.
All right. But you lived on that for a week.
Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty hard diet. Pretty hard diet. We have our canteen folks. We can go down and get a good meal every day. That's something that they had to put up with. Okay. Let's see. Clarence, how did you feel the first time you came under fire? How'd you feel the first time you came under fire?
Well, it seemed like it was a game, and everybody just stood up and kept walking.
Kept moving?
Yeah, and when they'd hear some activity over here, well, they'd throw a hand grenade or start firing, and this announcer, Van Buren, he had made a crusade in the Pacific, and he told about these Texas guys going through there, you know, and yeah,
From your unit.
Yeah.
And he was quoted in what, Life magazine or something?
Well, yeah, that in
He talked about your unit.
he had the crusade in the Pacific.
Okay.
Westbrook Van Buren was his name.
Van Voorhees.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
what did he say about your unit?
oh, he's talking about the Texas troopers going through there and not thinking it was a holiday or something. They're just shooting everything that they could see. So it was pretty bad.
But he really gave you all a lot of pats on the back
yeah.
as far as your bravery of the unit
Yeah.
and what your men accomplished in those
Yeah.
battles. James, do you have any special thing to say about when you first came under fire, and what was your reaction to it?
Well, yeah. When we made the beachhead on our way, one of my good friends, his mother was my landlord. Well, when we landed there in the rubber boats, well, he got shot. And I talked to him about a day before that happened and asked him what to hear from Mom. He said, well, she's doing all right. Said, maybe after this little thing's over, we get to go home. But he didn't make it. He got shot getting out of the rubber boat. So I remember on our way, we went on a patrol. It's on Christmas Day. And we went up on our patrol, I think about 12 men, we had an Australian major with us, and we got up there, and this Australian major turned around and he shot a Jap over behind a tree. We stopped right there, and this major told Captain Carter, says, I think you ought to get this equipment out of here because this Jap here is not the ones we've been fighting. He said he got new equipment and fresh supplies and everything. So we unloaded everything out of the truck, and about that time we heard the Japs come. And I felt like somebody was covering me up. There were big weeds over there. They shot them and they fell right down over the top of my head. Felt good. I thought he's covering me up. Well, I lost my pistol, 45 pistol, crawling down there. Well, one guy got shot in the hip. Lieutenant Calvert got shot in the shoulder. And I called down and told Colonel Miller, called down to MLR and told him to send some troops up there to help us. And he said, well, let's take it easy. It ain't that bad, is it? I said, well, we surrounded. But anyway, we finally got out of there. Me and the Jeep driver, Wayne Hubbard, me and him picked this guy up and got shot in the hip, and we got out of there. I don't know how the rest of them got out, but we got out of there in that Jeep. So we was pretty lucky. The part was so bad about that, though, it was on Christmas Day, and they're going to drop canned turkey to us, and I missed turkey.
Clarence, tell us about the war of words out there on the battlefield. The war of words and what was exchanged.
Well, it was just like almost like hand to hand all the time. And when a Jap would holler something at you, they used to cuss the President Roosevelt out. And we would do the same thing to Tojo. So we just have a cuss fight.
A little propaganda war there.
Yeah.
Okay. Clarence, we talked about your motivation as combat people in World War II, and so tell us about why you fought and took care of your buddies and all, and tell us about your feelings and motivation out there on the battlefield.
Well, I guess what it is you don't show cowardly in the front of your friends and the soldiers that you're with. And you'll go ahead and do what you're supposed to do, and that's the way it was. It's just unless somebody got psychoneurosis, and you had to write him down and give him a shot or something.
It wasn't like all the music and mom and apple pie, just taking care of your buddies, right?
Yeah,
that's right. James, you have anything to add to that for your motivation?
Well, to me, everybody, we was all one outfit, just like a big family, because we was in the National Guard, and we looked after each other because we felt like family. So we just taking care of each other, you see.
Yeah, you all have been back here in Dallas, and it moved as a unit as kind of a unique operation and organization with the way you all had that kinship with each other. Then the next place that you all went was WWII in New Guinea as the next island operation, I think. Yeah, you were ordered to New Guinea in June of 1944 for some R&R, and then you had a 2 weeks breathing spell terminated by orders to proceed to ATAP in support of the hard-pressed 32nd Division, holding that area against the bypassed enemy at WWII. And this location here is approximately right here on New Guinea. WWII is right there, and then you all landed just southeast of that big island called New Britain, and you had the WWII campaign there on New Guinea. 24 hours after your LCI's landing craft infantry beached at ATAP, the 112th with troops of the 32nd Division and later the 43rd Division were on that Drinamore River line that began 45 days of the hardest fighting that you all had ever experienced. The losses were heavy, but the line was held, and the counteroffensive of the WWII Jap 18th Army was stopped in its tracks there. James, after 10 days at WWII, after y'all got there was a major Japanese attack. What are your memories of that attack?
Well, the memory I remember most was them dead Japs laying out there in the riverbed swelling up. Sure was an awful smell, I tell you for sure.
Clarence, you had a story about the different people that had significant emotional reactions to combat. You mentioned some people had gotten psychoneuroses, and there was one specific case. Obviously, don't mention the name, but there was one specific person that jumped up and that you had to pull him down.
Yeah.
You want to tell that story without saying his name?
That happened quite a few times to different troopers, and I would never see them anymore until we got home, and they'd be out, But
yeah, but you that specific one jumped up and said, "We're all going to be killed."
Yeah.
And you went up and pulled him down to get him out of the line of fire, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Back to that question that I'd asked James. I kind of got out of order here. Do you have a specific memory of that attack that he mentioned, where they, you had the heavy action from the enemy at WWII?
Yes.
You remember that? Tell about the story about the division that folded, and then you all had to come in and back them up.
Yeah.
Tell that story.
Well, that was the 31st Division. We went down to tie on to them on the Drenamore River, and we got there with them, and about the same time that we did, the Japs made a bayonet charge, and the 31st Division, that was the first time in combat, and so they turned and run, the colonel with them. And our outfit just run in between them and the Japanese, and we started using their...
Move toward the front, move toward the Japanese?
Yeah.
To fight them? Okay.
Yeah. And so we held them back, and we used their weapons because we didn't have time to set ours down, but we'd use a machine gun, and the headspace would tighten up, and so we'd use one of ours to set up, and we threw hand grenades, and we stopped the charge. And after a while, the troopers had come back, from the 31st Division, and the colonel said, if you guys hadn't come in and stopped them there, they'd have run us down and stuck us in the back with a bayonet. And we were there 45 days and 45 nights without ever taking our clothes off. The first week that we were there, some of the troopers wanted to take their shoes off and wash their socks or do something, and when they did, they pulled a little bit of the hide off with them. And so they get put out a strict order, don't take your clothes off or your shoes. So, but we stayed 45 days and 45 nights without shaving, without a haircut, without taking clothes off, and we were in pretty bad shape when that was over with.
I was talking to Alan Harper about this, and I was talking about this story. He just put it very clear. He said, you guys are just tough old birds. That's what he said. You're just tough old birds to survive that kind of an operation in World War II, and we're really proud of you. Proud that you're part of our community and part of our culture, and glad that we're able to take care of you all, and proud to be able to take care of you medically, at this facility.
Also, when they made the counterattack on us, the 18th Army come from WWII and hit us and pushed us back. We called it, we advanced in the direction from which we came.
Right.
In other words, retreat.
Right.
We retreated 1,800 yards back to River X.
Yeah.
And built up again. And then 3 days after that, we came back up. But the artillery laid salvos in the Drenamore River. That river was about, I'd say about 1,000 yards wide. And in the middle, about 100 feet or so, the water was running. This was in the rainy season, that thing gets underwater, see. And 3 days after we was at River X, we came back up, and you couldn't imagine looking at the Japs laying in that riverbed. They were everywhere. I mean, that just...
The artillery barrage took them out?
Yeah. I stayed up with the observer.
Forward observer. Yeah.
And then we pulled back. We were the last ones pulling back, but when we went back up there, the Japanese were laying everywhere. They had all kind of artillery pieces and everything laying in that river. I wish I had a picture of that. That's something.
Well, that's what it was all about, was winning the battles, and you all did a great job and should be proud of yourselves. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting, you talked about that your hygiene, and you all, I understand the beards. You said you didn't shave, so you had beards, and you look like gorillas, right? Is that how you kind of look? I wish you had a picture of that.
Yeah. Well, now, when we got back to our area, our bivouac area, the medical officers cut our shoes and socks off. We had jungle boots on.
Yeah.
And they cut our socks off. And at that time, you could stand on your feet, but when they dried out a little bit, you couldn't get up. We were confined to quarters for 2 weeks.
It's the only time you got to have a rest.
That's right.
Yeah, had to have something like that happen. One time you mentioned, Clarence, about there was a gung-ho lieutenant. You know, one of the new lieutenants had come in. He got a little too gung-ho, and what'd you have to do with him as a veteran out there?
Well, one of the officers, he came OCS, and his outfit was the 202 Coast Artillery that was in Bataan and Crigador.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when he made OCS, he came to our machine gun platoon, and he was gung-ho. He wanted to volunteer for everything.
Get a Medal of Honor, probably, right?
He wanted to really get it. So we told him that he wouldn't last when the water got hot if he didn't go to the back of the line and stay back and watch what's going on. Maybe he'll live through it. But those officers were sort of like a dime a dozen. You know, they come in gung-ho and go out.
Yeah.
And this guy didn't go out though. He got hit 4 times across the chest, and he was cussing the Japs and everything the last time I talked to him, but they said that he made it back home all right.
Well, that's good. He survived. The lieutenants had a tremendous low life expectancy. They always do.
That's right.
And the senior NCOs do too, of course. The new replacements were also heavy casualties due to a lack of experience as they came in. You all had to calm them down and everything.
Right.
James, you had enough points to go home before the unit moved to the Philippines and your war was over. But Clarence moved on to the Philippines where the 112th began offensive operations over there. The 112th Regimental Combat Team in November of 44 then, about 8 or 9 months before the end of the war, joined the 1st Cavalry Division in the Leyte campaign, and it was the old story of jungle and mountain fighting. Now, apparently Leyte is just off the map here, so, you know, they went from here, and this is the Philippines, of course, and, you know, there are just hundreds and thousands of islands in the Philippines, but right here, Manila is where Luzon is, and then Leyte is a little further north, as I recall. It's off the map here, but that was the next place you all went for an operation. Upon conclusion of the Leyte, well, it was the old story of jungle and mountain fighting again in the Philippines. Mud, supplies dropped from planes, and evacuation of the wounded by litter and native carriers out of the jungle. And upon conclusion of the Leyte campaign, you all, still with the 1st Cavalry, landed at Lingayen Gulf. Now, you want to talk about General MacArthur and your exposure to General MacArthur there at Lingayen Gulf?
Well, when we made the landing at Lingayen, MacArthur came off the LCMs with us. He got in the water.
Was this the first time he was returning to the Philippines? You know, he had said, "I will return."
Yeah, this was it. This was it.
So you were like real near where that famous picture was taken?
Yeah, I was in there.
You were in the picture?
I was in the water. Well, I was in with the group.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Well, that's a pretty interesting sidelight of history. I hadn't known that till just now. That's a pretty neat story. That's great. Okay, let's see here. You were in the hospital, Clarence, and how close did the Japanese get?
How close?
Yeah, you were in the hospital with several other patients at one time, as I recall. And how close did these Japanese get?
Well, they had penetrated into the aid station.
You all slept with your weapons?
When you hear a round go off, you hit the ground, but you got your 45 with you. You know?
Yeah, so you all brought your weapons into the aid stations,
yeah.
Obviously, yeah. And you were being evacuated to Luzon because you had yellow jaundice at that time, but you decided to detour.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to detour?
Well, I don't know. I just want to stay with the troop. So I got off back and stayed with the rear area, and then when I got to feeling a little better, well, I went back up. But Yellow Jaundice, they give you grapefruit juice and orange juice in these big cans, and it takes about 6 weeks, but I think about 3 weeks taking care of me.
Yeah. And I know that you had malaria over there also.
Yeah.
James, can you conclude your comments with how you reflect and how you feel all these years later about your service with the 112th and your time in combat in World War II?
Well, I think it's the best fighting outfit in the United States. I think it's the best fighting outfit in the whole Army, United States, because they all looked after each other, and we just get with it. That's all I know. We just wouldn't let nothing get by. If a Jap comes showed his face, well, we got him.
So kind of did your job.
Yeah, we did the job.
Took care of each other.
And I don't know, it's just like a big family. Everybody loved everybody. So, because we all drilled together and maneuvers together in the States and all that, and we knowed everybody's family and all their problems and everything. So that's what we was, one big family.
Clarence, what would you like to say about your reflection about your service in the 112th during World War II?
I loved it. It was good. And we still have reunions every year. And we have quite a few left. I mean, they're going pretty quick, but we have quite a few left. And I've been on the board for 44 years straight, purchasing and curator. And I'm proud of it.
You should be. You both should be very proud of your service. Well, this concludes our formal Q&A. I noticed that Dan Heers, our acting associate director, is here. I'd like to have Dan stand and introduce him. And I don't see any of other of our senior folks here. Our head nurse, Berlene Huff, please stand up and be recognized. She leads all these nurses and all the caregivers up on the services and in the administration that take care of us out there. We're delighted with the work that all your people do, Berlene, for us. This is a time for questions from the audience. If you all have any questions you'd like to ask, we have a few more minutes here. So come up and use this mic. If you'd like to ask either James or Clarence anything, please come up. Pretty well covered it, huh? Anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, let me give you all some kind of aftermath of this unit and what their final record was in World War II. They had 2 Congressional Medals of Honor, both posthumously. They were awarded it, obviously died over there, a Second Lieutenant Dale Eldon Christensen and a Second Lieutenant George W.G. Boyce, Jr. They had 2 Distinguished Service Crosses, which is the second highest award for gallantry in action for the Army. They had 3 Legions of Merit, 56 Silver Stars, 111 Bronze Stars, and I guess 2 of those were Clarence's. They had 6 Air Medals. Now, this unit only had 402 officers and men, but this unit had over 1,200 Purple Hearts. This unit had 424 days in combat, and they lost 224 men. They were in the Airway Campaign, New Britain, the ATAP Campaign, New Guinea, Leyte, and Luzon, Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to show your recognition and appreciation to 2 members of the greatest generation. We thank you all very much for attending and appreciate your being here. James has got these pretty neat looking pictures if you'd like to come up and look at them or come up and study the map, and we're delighted you joined us today. Thank you.